I never thought a single morning could turn my life upside down. I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing non-stop, texts, missed calls, notifications from apps I didn't even recognize. My stomach sank when I saw messages from friends asking if I was okay. And then I remembered. Last night's meeting at work had gone terribly. My boss had pulled me aside, looking disappointed, and said the company might not survive the quarter. Bills, loans, and responsibilities that I thought I had under control suddenly felt like boulders crushing me. I tried calling my wife to distract myself, to find some comfort, but she didn't answer. I shrugged it off at first, thinking she was busy, but deep down, a nagging feeling started to grow. The tension between us had been building quietly for months, little arguments that escalated over nothing, cold shoulders, and endless sighs. I tried to convince myself it was just stress from my job, but then a notification popped up. A photo of her at a fancy restaurant with someone else, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. My heart dropped. I stared at the image, frozen. Who was he? How long had this been going on? Why didn't I see it? Everything I thought I knew about my life, about my marriage, seemed to crumble in an instant. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through more messages and pictures, dates I didn't know about, secret dinners, hidden smiles. And then I realized the scariest part. She wasn't hiding it from me because she thought I wouldn't notice. She was hiding it because she wanted me to. Subscribe and tell me in the comments what you would do if you were in my shoes. I couldn't even think straight, and I knew one thing for sure, my life was about to change forever. But little did I know. The nightmare was only beginning. The next few days were a blur. I tried to focus on work, but every little detail reminded me of her absence. I noticed she started staying late at the gym or going on long walks that she never mentioned before. Her phone was always face down on the counter, notifications silenced. At first, I wanted to believe I was overreacting, that maybe I was just stressed from my failing job, but the gut feeling wouldn't go away. One evening, I came home early from work, hoping for a normal conversation. The apartment was dark, silent, and empty. Her purse wasn't on the counter. No shoes by the door. I called her, and she said she was out with friends, but her voice sounded different, distant, almost rehearsed. Something in me snapped. I started looking for signs, anything that could confirm my suspicions. I found receipts in her bag, dinner for two at a restaurant I had never been to, a bouquet of flowers addressed to a man I didn't know. I even caught a glimpse of a text notification on her phone from someone named Mike, saying, "Can't wait to see you tonight." My hands were shaking, my chest tight. Was this real? Was my wife really betraying me while I was struggling to keep everything else together? I decided I couldn't confront her yet. I needed proof, undeniable proof, before I exploded. So I started following small patterns, noticing her schedule, her little habits, who she texted, who she called. Every detail I gathered made my heart sink deeper, but I felt this strange mixture of fear and determination. I needed to know the truth, no matter how painful. And just when I thought I had seen enough, I discovered something that made my blood run cold. I remember that night like it was yesterday. I stayed up, pretending to sleep, while my mind raced through every suspicion, every tiny lie she had told in the past months. Then it happened, her phone buzzed on the nightstand, and I saw the message preview. My stomach dropped. "Can't wait to be with you tonight," kissing face emoji. I froze. It was unmistakable, and it was meant for someone else. I waited until she left the room, heart pounding, and grabbed her phone. I know, it was crossing a line. But I had to know the truth. And there it was. Texts, photos, late-night calls. A whole life I didn't even know existed, hidden behind the walls of my own home. Dates, gifts, secret plans, all pointing to him. A man named Mike, someone she had been seeing for months. Months. My mind went into overdrive. How could she do this while I was struggling, losing sleep over bills and work, trying to keep our lives afloat? Anger, betrayal, sadness, it all collided inside me. I felt powerless, humiliated, and furious all at once. I couldn't even speak. I just sat there staring at the screen, trying to understand how the woman I loved could lead a double life right under my nose. But even in that chaos, a thought started to form. I couldn't let this destroy me completely. I needed a plan. I needed to find out everything before I made any move. Was I going to confront her tonight? Or wait until I had all the pieces? My mind raced. Little did I know, the moment I decided to dig deeper would lead me to a revelation more shocking than I could ever imagine. The deeper I dug, the worse it got. I started going through old messages, social media interactions, even shared photos on cloud accounts I never thought to check. It was like uncovering a hidden world, a world where my wife existed without me. She wasn't just having an affair, she was living a parallel life. Weekend trips with friends, late-night work calls, even brunches she claimed were with her co-workers. All carefully orchestrated lies. I confronted her casually one evening, trying to sound normal. "Hey, who's Mike?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. She froze for a split second before forcing a laugh. "Oh, just a friend from work," she said. But her eyes betrayed her. I knew then that I wasn't imagining things. My home, my life, the marriage I thought I knew, it was all a facade. I started noticing patterns I had ignored before, small lies, inconsistencies in stories, her phone habits, her sudden interest in dressing up even when we had no plans. The more I realized, the more my anger grew, but so did a strange sense of clarity. I wasn't going to let this spiral destroy me. I had to figure out her endgame, why she was doing this, and what I could do about it. I even started setting little traps, testing her stories. Watching, waiting, listening. And that's when I stumbled upon something I didn't expect, proof that she had been planning something even bigger, something that could shatter not just our marriage, but everything I had worked for. What she was hiding went beyond an affair. And I had no idea how far it would go. It all started at work. I was barely keeping my head above water with deadlines and projects, but suddenly everything seemed to collide. One afternoon, a coworker I barely knew approached me with a look of awkward hesitation. "Hey." I didn't want to say anything, but I think you should know, someone's been talking about your wife. My heart skipped a beat. I tried to play it cool, but inside I was bracing for impact. Apparently, she had been seen with Mike at a local bar, drinking, laughing, completely oblivious to who might be watching. Word travels fast in a small office, and by the end of the day, whispers had spread. Some colleagues offered sympathy, others exchanged knowing looks. I could feel judgment in the air, and it wasn't just strangers. My friends were noticing my stress, asking questions I couldn't answer without revealing the nightmare unfolding at home. When I got home, I confronted her again, hoping for some kind of explanation. She acted innocent, her voice trembling, but there was a flash of panic in her eyes. That panic told me more than any words could. She knew the walls were closing in. I realized something crucial in that moment: if I didn't take control, the world outside would crush me. The betrayal wasn't just private anymore, it was becoming public, and I had to protect myself, my reputation, and what little dignity I had left. But even as I started making plans, I knew I was stepping into dangerous territory. One wrong move, one confrontation at the wrong time, and everything could explode. What I didn't know yet was that the next day would bring a discovery so devastating, it would push me to the edge. The next morning, I couldn't focus on anything. My mind kept replaying the events of the last few days, the messages, the lies, the whispers at work. Then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number: "Check your email. It's time you see the truth." My heart pounded as I opened my inbox. There it was, a folder labeled Secrets. I hesitated for a moment, then clicked. What I found made me stagger back, my hands trembling. Photos, videos, screenshots. Every single moment of her affair laid bare. But it wasn't just her cheating. There were documents, receipts, even plans that showed she had been siphoning money from our joint accounts, meeting Mike for business dinners that were really secret getaways, and coordinating lies that stretched for months. It felt like someone had ripped the floor out from under me. I sank into the chair, feeling the weight of betrayal crush me. How could I have missed all of this? The late nights, the suspicious smiles, the secret texts, it all pointed to something much darker than I had imagined. At that moment, I knew I had to act, but I also knew I had to be careful. Confronting her now without planning could backfire. I needed witnesses, proof that would stand up if this ever turned into a confrontation or worse, a legal nightmare. And just as I was about to start putting together my plan, my phone rang. It was her. Calm, sweet, like nothing had happened. But this call would be the turning point. When she called, I forced my voice to stay steady. "We need to talk," I said, though my chest felt like it was going to explode. She laughed nervously, brushing it off, saying it was nothing serious. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her to meet me at the apartment, no distractions, no excuses. When she arrived, I could see the tension in her posture. She tried to smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. I laid out everything I had found, the messages, the receipts, the photos. Her face went pale, and for a moment, I thought she might finally break down. But instead, she tried to justify it, saying she was unhappy, that I didn't notice her feelings, and that it was just a mistake. I wanted to scream, to make her feel the pain she had caused me. But I realized something important: I needed control. I asked questions, probed deeper, and watched her reaction carefully. Every lie, every hesitation, every defensive word was another piece of evidence. I was no longer the man blindly in love, I was a man collecting truth. And then, the most shocking part, she admitted there was more than just Mike. Another name. Another life. My world tilted again. I felt anger, despair, and betrayal mixing into something that was almost unbearable. But underneath it all, a resolve began to form. I wasn't going to be a victim of her lies. As she left that night, I knew this confrontation was just the beginning. I had opened Pandora's box, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for what was coming next. After that confrontation, I knew I couldn't just sit back and let her continue destroying my life. I started planning carefully, step by step. I documented everything: screenshots, photos, receipts, even notes about her patterns and habits. I wanted undeniable proof, something that would leave no room for excuses. But it wasn't just about evidence. I needed to regain control of my life, my confidence, and my stability. I restructured my work schedule, stayed late to tie up loose ends, and even started hitting the gym again, something I had neglected. Each small victory, each task I completed, felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. At the same time, I tested her boundaries. I pretended to be oblivious, letting her underestimate me. Little lies of my own, subtle questions, watching how she reacted when I hinted I knew more than I let on. Every slip she made, every nervous glance, became a brick in the foundation of my comeback. One evening, I received a message from her: "Can we talk? I feel like you're distant." I smiled inwardly. Distant? She had no idea the storm I was preparing. I replied casually, agreeing to meet, all while I prepared for the moment when everything would come to light. And yet, just as I was feeling the first real sense of power since discovering her betrayal, something unexpected happened, something that threatened to unravel all my careful planning. I never expected it to happen like this. One Saturday afternoon, my closest friends and a few family members stopped by unannounced. My wife was there, acting casual, smiling, pretending everything was normal. I felt my heart rate spike, but I stayed calm. I had been waiting for this moment: an audience, witnesses, and undeniable proof. As we sat in the living room, I casually mentioned a funny text I had seen on her phone the other night. Her face paled instantly. I didn't even have to explain. I let the silence build, watching her squirm as everyone else exchanged glances. My friends asked questions, and I dropped details carefully, piece by piece. Every lie she had told, every secret she had kept, came out. Her panic grew with each revelation. She tried to defend herself, to make excuses, but no one believed her. The shock on the faces of people I cared about was mirrored in her own. She realized too late that she had underestimated me, and the truth had a way of finding its stage. That day, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. Satisfying because justice was finally being served, sad because the woman I loved so much had hurt me so deeply. But I also realized this was only the beginning. The consequences were far from over, and I needed to decide what my next move would be. And just when I thought I had control of the situation, a new twist emerged, one that I couldn't have anticipated and that would push me to my limits. Just when I thought I had everything under control, life threw me a curveball. A week after the living room confrontation, I got an anonymous email. The subject line read, "You don't know the whole story." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were documents, screenshots, and even voice notes that revealed something I hadn't expected: Mike wasn't the only one. There was another man, someone she had been secretly meeting behind both our backs. I felt the ground shift beneath me. How deep did this betrayal go? My anger boiled over, but this time I didn't react impulsively. I realized that she had been weaving a complicated web of lies for months, manipulating everyone around her while I tried to hold my life together. My mind raced through every interaction, every suspicious moment I had brushed off. Now it all made sense, and it hurt more than ever. I decided to dig even deeper, to trace every connection, every hidden message. My apartment became a command center: spreadsheets, timelines, screenshots, photos, all mapped out to uncover the full extent of her deception. I couldn't let anything slip through. And yet, in the midst of this chaos, I noticed something surprising: an opportunity. If I played my cards right, I could not only confront her properly but also reclaim my life entirely. I just had to be patient, strategic, and careful. Little did I know, the moment to strike would come sooner than I expected. And it would change everything. By now, I had a clear picture of everything, every lie, every secret meeting, every betrayal. I knew I had to confront her in a way that left no doubt and ensured I walked away with my dignity intact. This wasn't about revenge anymore, it was about reclaiming my life and making her face the consequences of her actions. I started planning meticulously. I reached out to a few trusted friends to be there as witnesses, ensuring that when the moment came, there would be no way for her to twist the story. I compiled all evidence into a single, undeniable presentation: messages, photos, receipts, even the hidden financial transactions. Every piece carefully organized, every detail airtight. But I also had to protect myself emotionally. I knew that seeing her panic, lying, and begging for excuses would stir up old feelings. So I practiced staying calm, collected, and in control. Every day, I reminded myself that this wasn't about anger, it was about closure and moving forward. The plan was simple but powerful. I would confront her in front of those who mattered, reveal everything, and let her actions speak for themselves. No shouting, no dramatics, just the cold, hard truth. I imagined the look on her face, the shock, the panic, and the realization that she could no longer hide behind lies. As I prepared, I felt a sense of empowerment I hadn't felt in months. The nightmare that had consumed me was about to end, and I was finally the one in control. But nothing could have prepared me for the final revelation that awaited me. A truth even darker than her betrayal. The day finally came. I invited her over under the pretense of talking things through. Friends and family were discreetly waiting, and I could feel my heart pounding, not with fear, but with resolve. She walked in, acting casual, but the tension in the room was electric. She had no idea what was about to hit her. I began calmly, explaining that I knew everything: Mike, the other man, the secret trips, the lies, the hidden accounts. Her face went pale, her lips trembling as she tried to deny, deflect, and manipulate. I let her talk, watched her panic, and then revealed the compiled evidence, piece by piece. Messages, photos, financial statements, all undeniable proof of her double life. The room fell silent. Friends and family stared, shocked at the depth of her betrayal. She realized too late that her carefully constructed world had crumbled in front of everyone. I could see her panic, hear the stammering excuses, feel the power shifting. For the first time in months, I wasn't the victim. I was in control. And just when I thought the worst was over, she blurted out something that made my blood run cold. She wasn't just lying to me, she had been planning to leave me for good, and she had manipulated everyone, including some of my closest friends, to cover her tracks. It was a devastating blow, but instead of breaking me, it steeled my resolve. That day, everything changed. After the confrontation, the house felt empty, heavy with the remnants of betrayal. She left shortly after, and I was left alone with the silence, but for the first time in months, it felt liberating rather than suffocating. I realized that I had survived the storm, and now it was time to rebuild my life on my own terms. I focused on myself first. Work became my refuge. I poured my energy into projects, finally receiving recognition for my efforts. I joined a local gym again, reconnected with old friends, and even took up small hobbies I had neglected. Each step forward, no matter how small, reminded me that my life didn't end with her betrayal. In fact, it was just beginning. I also took care of my emotional recovery. Therapy helped me process the anger, sadness, and shock. Journaling allowed me to understand my feelings and reclaim my confidence. Slowly, I realized that her actions, as painful as they were, had taught me something invaluable: resilience, self-respect, and the importance of setting boundaries. And while I still felt the sting of betrayal, I knew I was no longer defined by it. I had control again, not just over my life, but over my story. I had faced the darkest chapter, and I was emerging stronger. Little did I know, the final twist in this saga was about to teach me one last lesson, something that would bring closure and a sense of justice I never expected. Just when I thought I had closure, life threw one last curveball. A mutual friend, someone I trusted completely, approached me quietly one evening. "You won't believe this," they whispered. "She's trying to manipulate others now, spinning stories about you, making herself look like the victim." At first, I felt a surge of anger. I had worked so hard to reclaim my life, and now she was still trying to control the narrative. But then I realized something crucial: I didn't need to fight her anymore. The truth was already out. People who mattered, My friends, my family, my colleagues, knew exactly what had happened. I didn't have to justify myself. I also discovered that in trying to deceive others, she had accidentally exposed herself again. Hidden messages, sloppy excuses, and inconsistencies made it impossible for anyone to believe her lies. Karma, it seemed, had a way of balancing things out. For the first time in months, I felt genuine peace. I wasn't haunted by her betrayal anymore. I had learned to trust my instincts, face painful truths, and take control of my life. And most importantly, I realized that surviving such a storm doesn't make you bitter, it makes you stronger. As I reflected on everything, I knew one thing for certain: life goes on, and so do I, stronger, wiser, and finally free from the shadows of her deception. Months have passed since the storm, and I can finally say I've reclaimed my life. The pain of betrayal is still there, a faint scar reminding me of what I survived, but it no longer controls me. I've rebuilt my routine, strengthened my relationships with friends and family, and rediscovered passions I had neglected. Every day, I remind myself that I am stronger than the challenges life throws at me. I've also learned an invaluable lesson: trust your instincts, value your self-worth, and never let anyone's lies define you. Life can be unfair, and people can be cruel, but resilience, patience, and clarity of mind can help you navigate even the darkest moments. I chose to confront the truth, take control, and emerge stronger, and that choice changed everything. To everyone listening, remember this: betrayal hurts, but it also teaches. You can either let it destroy you or use it as a catalyst to grow, to rebuild, and to reclaim your power. I chose the latter, and my life is proof that survival doesn't just mean enduring, it means thriving. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and stay tuned for the next drama.